Welcome to the Creative Cast. I'm your host, Tammy Munson, podcast producer, coach, and CEO of Wildfire Creative. Are you struggling to grow and monetize your podcast? Want to learn more about starting your own podcast? Are you looking for the secrets behind the business side of podcasting? Well, friends, you are in the right place. Here on the Creative Cast, I'm going to be sharing all the tips and tricks on all things podcasting for the faith-based podcaster. Each episode is going to contain powerful information to help you get started with your own podcast, learn the secrets of building a business, and of course, growing and monetizing your podcast. All right, y'all, without further ado, let's get started. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Creative Cast. I am your host, Tammy Munson, and I am so glad that y'all are here. It is officially November. The holiday Starbucks drinks are out, and Christmas music is playing on Sirius XM, so it's the Christmas season in my book. Christmas is one of my favorite holidays, and y'all, simply, I just try to make it last as long as possible. So I know I'm going to get notes about it's not Christmas, we need to focus on Thanksgiving. So no, I have not decorated yet. But I will probably do that in the next week or so. My husband is going hunting this coming weekend, so there's a really good chance that'll happen then. Today we're talking about growing your audience authentically with the intimacy of podcasting. Now, I know you're probably thinking, 2.4 million podcasts in the world isn't necessarily intimate, but it really is. And so let's dive into that. When podcasting came on the scene back in 2005, well, at least when I was introduced to it, as I learned more and more about it and started to learn editing and possibly considering starting my own show, the one thing I noticed was that it created a shift in how people consumed information, especially audio. Because one of the things that really drew me to podcasting was that people could listen to episodes of their favorite show when they wanted to. And podcasts also opened up a whole new worldwide audience that wasn't restricted by the limitation or gatekeeping of traditional media. Now, you guys know what I'm talking about. Back then, if you wanted to be on the news, if you wanted to get some traction for your business, to do some marketing, you really had to look at radio or getting on a local news segment or get listed in a magazine or something like that. Over the last, let's say, almost 20 years now, it really has changed because we're now able to access the things we want when we want, right? I mean, think of it in just terms of podcasting. People are now able to access their version of on-demand audio. And we've translated that into on-demand access to TV and movies and all kinds of things. Audiences now are dictating what they want and how they want it in a way that hadn't been done before. Y'all, I just love that for so many reasons. Okay, back to podcasting. When I learned of podcasting and learned more about what it could do and what I could do with it, I realized it was an untapped medium that I knew I needed to be a part of, that I wanted to be a part of, to build an engaged community, create connections, and even build authority as a thought leader. The thing about podcasting is that it positions you as the host in your listener's ear, just like I'm doing with my show. It's just you and me. Because when you achieve that level of intimacy, that familiarity, your potential for impact increases. Your listeners will hear your story and learn from you or your guests' expertise on things that truly matter to them. And over time, a meaningful relationship develops. not just within the podcast, but within social media, email, all kinds of other ways to do that. Now, if you're just getting started in this, remember, everyone starts with 0 listeners, unless you already have that built-in audience. But if you're just getting started, and as you publish each episode, your audience will grow, and you will get acquainted with them. Then you can begin to see what listeners respond to and what piques their interest. This insight enables you to meet and understand your audience. Now, if you don't already have an audience built in or a big audience, it's okay. But it is hard to analyze data that doesn't exist quite yet. But no worries. You want to go ahead and create that listener avatar. Now that will allow you to envision your listeners, who they are, what they do, what is important to them, all things you need to consider as you develop your audience. For example, I recently helped one of my launch clients create a listener avatar. My client will have a faith-based podcast, and her listener avatar is a girl named Millie. Yep, totally named it. So Millie is in her early 40s and lives in the South. She grew up in the church. She loves hanging out with her mom friends, and she loves listening to podcasts as she drives her kids wherever they may need to be. She's not particularly happy with her job, but it pays the bills. She has a side hustle that she works on when her kids are sleeping, and she wants to spend more time in the Word. She is going to listen to my client's show because that's where she's going to draw her wisdom, her inspiration, and she's going to learn more about God's Word and her calling in life, what God is calling her to do. Now, this podcast will allow the host to play a direct role in Millie's life. Now, keep in mind that your audience's interests, desires, and needs are going to change and expand over time. By checking in with your audience and reviewing your analytics, all of them, not just the downloads, will help ensure that you consistently meet their needs and wants. Now, remember, it's your show, absolutely, but it's also about your audience and your niche. Now, one of the key ways to building this intimate relationship with your audience is by delivering valuable content. Because the best content for your podcast is drawn from your listeners' pain points. That's where the listener avatar comes into effect when you're launching, or if you have been doing it a little bit, look and see what your listeners' pain points are. What do they need? What information are they looking for? And as you answer their questions and help them with solutions to their problems, they will start to not only trust, but rely on your advice. By building that level of intimacy and establishing the connection and trust is a huge turning point in your podcast. Because once your relationship is established, your podcast can be used as a lead magnet to promote your other products and services. For example, let's say there's a podcast that's hosted by a health coach. Now, they could talk about their upcoming summit, perhaps in the middle of the show. Or if they are a doctor, they could mention a discount on their services at their clinic. Even so, the episode isn't centered around the seminar or the deal that they're offering or their services or anything like that. The episodes are always about solving problems, offering entertainment, and delivering that amazing, to-the-point content. This relationship between you and your audience will grow as you consistently deliver value. Little caveat here. Please don't make the mistake that some podcasters tend to do where they make their episode just one long infomercial. Now, this is one reason why you rarely hear any ads for products or services other than the ones that we offer here at Wildfire. We don't really do any kind of ad for any other company but our own. And there's a reason for that. I don't want this to be about anybody else. I want it to be for you and only you, and to offer our products and services. Because we know that most of the people that listen to our show are either podcasting currently and want to grow their show, or they are getting ready to launch a podcast and want to do it right from the very beginning. So remember that your episodes are an extension of your brand, but it is really about the information that you're sharing and the solution that you can offer. One way to maintain trust with your listeners is through consistency. And I know, there is that word again, but y'all, it really is the name of the game. By being consistent with publishing and amazing content, it has such a massive impact on the connection that you share with your audience. By publishing regular episodes, when you say you're going to do it, helps you build and maintain that trust. You want to make it easier for your audience to experience your show. So if you can, schedule one episode a week, which is going to allow listeners to connect with you at the same time and same place. But if your bandwidth really just doesn't allow for that, publish on the best frequency that works for you to deliver great content and to be consistent. Just remember to be committed to whatever schedule you're doing. Your listeners are going to start counting on that. And if for some reason you're not going to publish a show, let them know that. So for example, a listener may begin to really look forward to listening to your episodes every Friday because they listen while they're doing their weekly workout or during a weekly drive to an event that they have every week. You become part of your audience's routine when you are consistent. Now let's talk about guests for a little bit, because I've been seeing a couple of things out there in different masterminds that I'm in, different Facebook groups that I'm in about guests. Now, of course, having guests on your show is the fastest way to expand your reach. Guests on your show bring their audiences and generally share the episodes that with their social media followers. So this can be great for enhancing your reach. Because having the ability to bring on new personalities provides freshness to your content, shakes things up a little bit. Now, if you're a solo type show like this, and you typically don't have guests, you may want to think about adding a guest every now and then. It's really a great way to add a little something extra, or as we say in Louisiana, a little lagniappe to your show, while bringing new perspectives and expertise. So here's a couple of tips about choosing a guest for your episodes. You want to make sure that you choose the right guest for your audience. So you want to consider their values or messaging, and that it aligns with your podcast, your niche, your audience, that they are going to add value to your community. You want to make sure that their audience is similar, at least complementary, to your niche. And speaking of niches, it's these narrow similarities about us that make these deep connections, the intimacy, if you will. And the more interest that you do share with another person, it makes it easier to connect with them. For example, if you were in a coffee shop and you meet another woman, and just knowing that she's another woman, you don't automatically think, oh my gosh, we should be BFFs. Right? But if we started talking to her and realized, oh wow, we're both women of faith and we have a shared love of queso and Chick-fil-A, then probably we are meant to be BFFs, right? So all the things I've talked about, the consistency in your content, the delivering great content, all these things is going to help you establish that relationship with your audience. And enhancing it is going to be one of the key factors to growing your audience with that valuable content, trust, and my favorite word here on the podcast, consistency. Okay, time for some recommendations. Now, one of my absolute favorite faith-based podcasts, because I've got a lot of favorite podcasts, y'all. But one of my favorite faith-based ones is The Bible Binge. Now, I absolutely love it, especially for someone who didn't grow up in the church studying the Bible. Over in The Bible Binge, Knox McCoy and Jamie Golden host the show, and they share both familiar and obscure stories from Scripture and retells them with so much humor and really practical insight. And it's one of the things I love is that curiosity in their conversations that leads to amazing discussion and application. I 100% recommend it. I give it 5 stars. So if you haven't listened to it, I'll link it in the show notes for you. Go listen to it and then let me know what you think if you like it too. Now, I also have some news that you can use. So this is from Amazon Music. So 2 years ago, Amazon Music brought the spoken word to its app. And the company is now making most podcasts that you listen to through Amazon Music ad-free for its Prime members. Isn't that cool? So the benefit will also extend to regular music as well as podcasts. And Prime members will have access to the full catalog of over 1 million songs over at Amazon Music ad-free at no additional cost to the membership. That's pretty freaking awesome, y'all. And that includes the podcast previews feature as well. And the cool thing is they're even going to be sharing some of that revenue with their podcasters in exchange for the ad-free offering. More information is coming on this soon. I just saw the release about it, so stay tuned. And if you want to stay in the know with news like this, I want you to make sure that you subscribe to the email list for our Insider Email Club newsletter that we send out every month, because we do all the work and all the research on staying up to date on all the insider baseball news so that you don't have to. Now, ladies, I believe in each and every one of you. I don't want that imposter syndrome, overwhelm, intimidating tech, whatever excuse you have, stopping you from accomplishing your goals and answer your calling, whatever it may be. So we're going to continue to walk through this journey together so that you can spend less time worrying about all the details and more time spreading your message, sharing your story, and answering God's calling. I hope that you have a great day. I hope this episode was super helpful for you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to either email me or DM me on Instagram. And I will talk to you next Monday. Bye, y'all.